The entire process of voting in 2020 is different, with absentee ballots already setting records and new configurations at the polls to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
So we asked our panel of Granite State voters what they think about the changes. Let's go back to Monica Hernandez.
Do any of you have fears over going to vote in person, or on the flip side of that, fears over potential fraud if votes are absentee or mailed in?
I don't have any problem with mail-in voting. I think it's worked in other states. I don't have any problem with it. I'm not really concerned about going to the to voting places because as long as people are wearing their masks and following social distancing policies, I think it will go well. And New Hampshire hasn't been hit hard like California or New York, so I think it will be fine here.
I don't have any issues with mail-in voting. I think the major issue will be what are some other individuals, depending on the results, how that's taken. As far as voting in person, I work in healthcare, so I've been out and about with COVID. So going to vote in person is not going to prevent me from going in.
I've had the honor of being a poll worker in the past and had to deal with absentee ballots, and certainly in watching how the primary was handled, very confident in New Hampshire's voting system. That there's a lot of checks and balances, a lot of ways to be sure that each person gets to vote and they get to vote once. And there has been no proof of fraud. So I'm very confident whether people cast their ballots in absentee or in person that the counting will go accurately in New Hampshire. And, as one of my fellow panelists mentioned, mail-in voting has been used successfully in a lot of other states, and no proof of any voter fraud there as well. So I'm confident that we'll get good results. We may not get them immediately with an increased number of absentee ballots going in this year, but I'm confident that we'll have good results.
I voted in the primary, and I was actually impressed with the care that was taken to make sure that everybody was safe, the distancing, the way the ballots were actually put into a folder, and it just looked like a lot of good care was taken. And I haven't seen any evidence in this state of voter suppression or intimidation. I think New Hampshire is really leading the charge to make sure that there's a lot of integrity with the election, and I feel very confident.
So folks are giving high marks. One big question this cycle is how the presidential matchup will affect down ballot races. The question, well, it isn't as easy as years past.
But our political team is watching a handful of New Hampshire communities whose early returns could provide some important information for tomorrow.
Well, Jen and Tom, we just talked about Claremont, and that wasn't necessarily a bellwether for New Hampshire because obviously Hillary Clinton won in 2016. But John DeStaso did a deep dive on this recently, and John, you came up with more than a dozen communities that we are going to be watching very closely tomorrow. Take us through a few of those.
Thanks, Adam. Obviously, Claremont is right on top of that list, but if you come here to Manchester, you mentioned Ward 1 earlier. Ward 6 is a split ward, basically. And this was a ward, however, that Trump won handily in 2016. So this is a ward to watch, not only for the presidential race, but down the ballot as well. If Dan Feltus is going to have any sort of a good night, he's going to have to do well in wards like this, place like this. Going outside of Manchester, Rochester is a city that is almost evenly split. Again, Trump won that one over Hillary Clinton. How will Jeanne Shaheen do there? Will Corky Mesner make any inroads in that area? And that's another one that I'm going to be watching very closely. Further north, not all the way north, but further north is Conway, which is another split community. I think this is one that has a little bit of a Democratic edge, but it's one where if the Republicans, such as Trump and Mesner, are going to make some inroads right now, this is another place where they have to do well. The polling in this race has been on the presidential side has been very one-sided in terms of Biden. People I've spoken with on both sides think this presidential race is going to be closer. Some are saying as close as 3%. Others, even the most optimistic Biden folks, are saying 5 to 8%. So it's something we should watch, and how that will affect these communities ultimately the race is down the ballot.
And speaking of down ballot, one race we do want to talk about in terms of its interplay with the presidential race, John, is that 1st congressional district. If it's a good night for Donald Trump in CD1, that could really help Matt Mowers.
Oh, absolutely. I think that he has tied himself to Trump, but with Trump not doing so well, if you believe public polling, as you just heard, Matt Mowers is now aligned himself, attached himself to Governor Sununu, and it says that he'll be his partner in Washington. So this is one again that this will always swing. I mean, you remember the Frank Ginter, Carol Shea Porter races, back and forth, back and forth. This is one in 2016 that was extremely close also, and it also is in the reporting that I did on these towns. I also included the Ginter Shea Porter races from 2016, more so than last time, which was a midterm and fewer voters. So take a look, it's online. I don't want to bore everyone with listing 14 communities, but they're there, and I think that I've gotten some decent feedback, and I think they kind of will help us tell the story tomorrow night.
And of course, Chris Pappas in that CD1 race did very well in traditionally Republican areas. He's one of the most talented politicians on the Democratic bench. It'll be interesting, Tom and Jen, if he can hold on to those margins tomorrow night.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Interesting stuff for
We
sure.
have more final pitches from the candidates on this election eve.
Right now, let's hear from the candidates for U.S. Senate.
Hi, I'm Corky Messner, and I want you to know that when I'm your next U.S. Senator, I will have one and only one priority, and that is to fight for you. That is to look out for you. And that is to do the best I absolutely can for you when I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm not beholden to any special interest. I'm not beholden to any person or political party. I am only beholden to you. Jeanne Shaheen is a career politician, and she's been in politics far too long. Don't believe her lies. Don't believe her misleading ads. Just 7 weeks ago, she could have voted yes to help New Hampshire small businesses and yes to help Granite Staters, and she voted no. So don't be misled. I want to thank you. This last year has been an uplifting and inspiring experience for me, and one I will never forget. I ask for your vote. I ask for your support. Vote Corky Messner, CorkyForSenate.com. Thank you.
I'm Jeanne Shaheen. As governor and now as United States Senator, I've worked to make a difference in the lives of the people of New Hampshire. Now times are tough with the coronavirus. Too many people are struggling. I worked across the aisle in Washington to get help back to New Hampshire, to create the Paycheck Protection Program that's helped over 24,000 small businesses in New Hampshire and kept over 200,000 people employed. But there's more to do to get our economy moving again and to ensure that our lives can get back to normal. We've got to invest in infrastructure and in high-speed internet. We've got to ensure that people have access to health care, especially those with pre-existing conditions, and lower the cost of prescription drugs. We've got to help our child care and our schools, and we've got to address climate change, investing in clean energy alternatives. I hope you'll look at my record and decide you can support me on November the 3rd. Thank you very much.
Just hours away now from Election Day 2020.
We're going to hear more of the candidates' final pitches when we come right back and let you know how to keep track of all the returns as they come in.